Hello and welcome to a new mini-series from The Mortgage Conversation brought to you by Saffron for Intermediaries. I'm your host, Tony Hall. So today we're going to be introducing our underwriting and processing team and talking through the process, talking through how do we make it more transparent, sharing best practice and top tips to help our brokers get it right first time and get the right outcomes for their clients. We'll also share case studies of what good looks like, and we're going to try and bust some myths of what you guys think underwriters and processors get up to. So, got a great team, so I'm going to introduce everybody individually, and we'll start with Max. So Max, if you could tell everybody who you are, what you do and how long you've been at Saffron.
So, my name's Max. I manage the mortgage processing team. So we're kind of responsible for their data consistency ahead of underwriting. And I've been with Saffron 2 years.
What do you enjoy most about your role, Max?
I would say probably when we get an opportunity to secure a really great outcome for a case that maybe looks a little more complicated, or a case that maybe requires jumping through hoops, when we can secure the right outcome for the broker and the applicant on a case like that.
Excellent. And this is a real opportunity for you. What's the one thing you wish brokers knew about what you do?
I suppose it would come back to a conversation that we had with a broker at the event that we hosted last week. I did have a broker say that in an ideal world, everything that was uploaded would go straight to underwriting and would bypass the processing team completely, which is great. In an ideal world, that would be fantastic if a case could go straight to underwrite. However, that's only obviously possible if a case was 100% packaged and if all the data was consistent across every single document there and the full story was told on the day of submission. But unfortunately, the nature of the industry doesn't usually allow for that. And so that's what our team is there for. So I suppose it's just kind of understanding what a processing team does would be the most important thing.
Good. I mean, that is, that's one of the challenges for us as a lender and for brokers in general, because there's 150 lenders out there, all with slightly different ways of doing things, which is why we're bringing this this series to you so that you can understand how Saffron does it. Not only how, who does it, and why they're so wonderful. So on that point, Shilpa, can you let us know who you are, please, and how long you've been with us?
Yes, I'm Shilpa. I'm an underwriter, and I've been with Saffron for coming up to be 3 years in January.
Wow, it's 3 years.
Yes,
Gosh.
already, and counting.
Yeah. So again, what do you enjoy most about being an underwriter?
I enjoy giving positive outcomes at the end of assessing a case. The diverse cases that we see, no case is same, which makes it even more interesting. Speaking to brokers is the highlight of the day. Otherwise, you're not talking to anyone, isn't it? You're by yourself almost. So interacting with the brokers is very nice for me personally, and giving positive outcomes at the end.
Excellent, and we'll explore that more in a bit. So, and again, to you, the one thing that you wish brokers knew about what you do.
We don't like declining cases. I think there's a myth out there that perhaps underwriters may like declining cases, but we actually find it really hard to decline cases because there's a lot of emotional concerns when you're declining case. It's not just you, it's not the broker, it is the applicants at the end of the day. You are you can crush someone's dreams when you're declining a case. And if you're accepting it, you're just making someone's dream come true as well. So declining cases is very hard for underwriters.
Absolutely. It's good to hear that from the sales guy. Right, and by no means, last or least, John.
Yeah. So, hi, my name is John Reid. I'm the head of underwriting at Saffron Building Society. I've been with the company just shy of 5 years now, and love every minute of it.
Fantastic. It's not what he always says, but mostly after speaking to me, but it's a delight to have you here. So again, what do you enjoy most about your role?
I suppose for my role, I enjoy leading the team to really think about complexity and decisioning and making it as simple as we possibly can. Not just for the underwriters, but the brokers and the customers as well. So I like leading them in thinking about and learning new ways of underwriting, which for me, getting the right outcome is key. So I would say that's the highlight of my job. seeing those outcomes.
And again, that last question. So, what's the one thing it would be great if brokers understood this about underwriters?
I think for me, there's probably a couple of points. One, I would say that the first part is at Saffron, we are human. We don't have an automated scorecard that makes your decisions on cases. So you have somebody like Shilpa, somebody like Max, looking at each and every single case and assessing it on its own merits, which I think for me is one thing I really want to get across to brokers, that obviously we are human. And I suppose the other element for me is the fact that we're here to learn and take feedback on board, where we can learn to improve. And it's valuable for me hearing it directly from yourself, Tony, and the other business development team. But more importantly for me, it's hearing it from the brokers as well. That's why I am encouraging to hear, look, where can we learn to improve?
And I know, John, you love coming out and meeting our brokers as well. And I'm sure you did the same last week,
Yes.
and Max. So and we encourage that at Saffron.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really driving to encourage we get out and meet brokers face to face. I've been out. Shilpa, you've been out as well. So again, we can see the benefit of speaking to brokers directly.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you all for those lovely openings. So let's get stuck into this then. Right. So first of all, we're going to look at demystifying the underwriting process. I'm going to come to you, Max. I want to emphasize the importance of why it matters. So Max, when an application comes in, what are the first things you and your team look for?
So there's a few kind of initial screens that we would do when a full mortgage application is received. We would check various things like that everything's all in order with the broker's registration on our system, that if it's regulated business, then we've got them recorded correctly as being able to submit regulated business, that kind of thing. We'll also do some initial checks on the security property, so checking the general flood risk and then also the long-term flood risk, using the government checkers for those. We will have a look at the application type and the applicant's circumstances and sort of the applicant's personal information, so nationality, that sort of thing. And we do that so that we can give the checklist a pre-screen, because obviously certain application types or different nationalities may drive different, not that different nationalities would drive different checklist items, but somebody having a nationality that would warrant us getting sort of ID and proof of residence, that sort of thing. It will drive different items to appear on that checklist. And so we kind of make sure that we're doing our bit to ensure a broker can get it right first time, because ultimately it's what everybody wants. It's what the broker and the applicant want. It's what we want. So we will look at the checklist and make sure that we are asking for everything that we will need in order to get that case over to the underwriters for initial assessment, rather than giving sort of a partial checklist at the first instance that then gets satisfied and then we come back with more requirements, because obviously that's not fun for anybody in the process.
Yes. So what makes an application stand out for the right reasons?
I would say clear storytelling on that one. So if all of the circumstances surrounding that application are clear from what's been submitted on the full mortgage application, but also from any broker notes or memos that we've had and the documentation that's been provided, if we can tell the story purely just from looking at what's on that case file in our system, that is what would make a case stand out for the right reasons for me. I think for everything to be clear, including even like the loan and deposit structure, for all of that to be crystal clear for us, so we've got all the information we need so that our underwriters can make a decision on an informed basis, that's what would make it stand out right for me.
Yeah, and I think for the listeners or viewers, depending on what you're doing, our portal has a notes functionality, so you can clearly tell that story at both decision in principle or full mortgage application. So do make use of that, because I know it's valuable for you guys.
Yeah.
It helps you come to the best decision and the best outcome. And then, so where do things go wrong most commonly, Max, and how can brokers avoid it?
So we've done a lot of work, certainly as sort of management and heads of mortgage processing, the department that I'm in, and obviously John and the underwriting manager, Caroline. We've done a lot of work on analysing quality of packaging and how, we're supporting that internally and the quality of the packaging that we're receiving from external sources. And from analysing the data that we've gotten from that, it would seem, and let me know if you have any different opinions, John, but it would seem that the biggest place that things fall down is where information is inconsistent. And so if, for example, there are undeclared items on bank statements that we haven't seen, so if we can see that there are dependents that haven't been declared on the application or commitments that haven't been, or if we receive, for a self-employed applicant, for example, tax calculations and tax year overviews, but the figures don't match on those documents. Wherever there's inconsistencies, that's where we then lack the clarity that we need in order for our underwriters to be able to make a decision, because they're not fully informed. Verification of income is a big one on the list for where things fall down, and that sort of tax year overview and tax calculation matter comes into that. Also, obviously, where we're looking at limited company directors, we will need to look at accounts, that sort of thing. And it's essentially, if any of the information that's been submitted on the full mortgage application cannot be backed up by the documentation that we're provided, that's where things will fall down.
Okay.
And so I suppose the way in which we could combat that would be making use of the tools that are available to brokers. So, for example, on our website, under the important documents section, we've got a document called Supporting Documents and Submission Requests,
Yep.
which tells anybody who looks at it exactly what we're going to ask for different income types. And that can be a really useful document to look at. And also maybe just sort of proofreading or sense checking the documentation that we're in receipt of before submitting it, just so we can make sure that the information is consistent with what we've already been provided. Because if it's not, we can get ahead of that by sort of offering clarity before we get it over to underwriting, because otherwise there's only going to be further questions that come out of that.
I think for me, like Max says, it is about clarification and communication. So just going back to the earlier topic about notes on cases, so the other service we can offer is the morning call with the underwriters. So if as a broker you have a complex or unusual scenario, you can speak to your business development manager, give them the clear communication to bring that to the underwriters directly, who can then make the decision there and then say, look, is this something we would like to consider? And if so, do we need some more information to help support? And then equally as well, when the case comes through, it's just adding that clear note on, say, look, it's already been through the underwriting process, we spoke to our BDM, this is the scenario. And again, simple note of on either on a Word document or a note on the system itself, really just benefits and just helps us understand the case quicker. And in today's market, it is about speed, about how quickly we can turn that FMA into an offer.
Yeah, you made a good point there, John, about the underwriter surgery, we call it, where, as you said, every day at the BDMs should be bringing cases that they know we should be doing, but might have some challenges. So we're not bringing cases that we can't do.
Yeah.
That's the under BDM's role to say no at source, the quick no. Yeah. It's not for us. These are ones where actually it is, but we just want to double check before you've done your dip. So actually we're putting in the effort for you before you've done anything. So that's the key. So Max, to summarize what you said then, it's about checking for inconsistencies. Yeah. Do all the things you've said match up. Do the accounts match up? Do the bank statement? And I think another thing is, one of the things we have is erroneous things on bank statements that raise a question that actually, again, in the notes, if the broker put, you might see this on the bank statement, this is what it's for, don't panic. That's the kind of thing you're talking about, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So anything that may be slightly out of the ordinary, or anything that you think may raise a question, just getting ahead of the question that we'll ask just by giving us the context. Because 9 times out of 10, it's easily answerable when we go back with the question. Anything that is out of the ordinary, just giving us the context in that note is really, really helpful, because it just means that our underwriters are fully informed by the time that we send the case over to them.
So before we move on, anything else on the underwriting process that you see as common mistakes or common misunderstandings from our brokers that you want to kind of highlight now?
From my side, no. It is more about, like Max says, the clear communication as to the type of case we're looking at, and really understanding the better picture it can be painted of the customers and the scenario, the easier it is to underwrite. Yeah. I think that's the key from my side.
I think for me, I would just highlight that the A to Z of our lending criteria being on the website, obviously that's there as a resource for anybody to use before they submit a case. And I think sometimes we may see a case where, for example, we see that somebody's not a British national, and so we ask for evidence of their visa. And when the visa comes in, it's unfortunately not a visa that's acceptable to our criteria. And so I think using that as a resource is really, really valuable, because then the broker hasn't sort of had a conversation with their applicant that's given them any false hope. If they've checked the criteria to make sure that their case definitely fits, if it's not a case that they've discussed with their BDM directly, obviously, then using that lending criteria as a resource can sort of help us catch those.
Absolutely. And I think for everybody, it's not just our A to Z. Our data is up to date on all sourcing platforms and ones with our partners as well, if you're from a network or using a club route. So do take the time to do that, or ring your BDM or ring the intermediary support team, and they will very clearly help you. Good. Okay. So let's move. Oh, actually, the other thing I think we'll do when this airs is we'll put out those documents that you talked about on the link. Yeah. So link to supplementary forms so you can see what they are. Excellent. Excuse me. Right, we have demystified the underwriting process. That is good news. So we're now going on to what good looks like. So we're going to come to Shilpa on this. So this is about getting it right first time. So what are the top 3 things that make the biggest difference to a form being complete or an application being completed correctly?
The main one is it can lead to correct outcomes. Incorrect information on the applications or the FMA versus the documentation that's presented to yourself, as Max said, if it's contradictory, that means that when it comes to underwriting and when we're validating the information, it's not going to lead to an outcome that we all want. So the main thing is that it would lead to good outcomes. If there is further inconsistencies and we have to then max loan cases, it would avoid incorrect max loans. So where, for example, if from the information we're seeing, the max loan comes to 100,000, but when the broker clarifies that after we've gone with the max loan can be increased. So if the clarification, for example, had come from before, as Max said, if we've put a note up there, then we would go with the correct max loan at the beginning. So we don't waste time, applicants' time, our time, or even the broker's time, trying to be the main person to go in between. And the third one would be, it would just give us all the information up front. So if we are, for example, declining a case, hypothetically, when it comes to us based on information we've been given, could that case have been spotted as a possible decline by, say, processing or by the broker themselves, had they looked at the income and expenditure planner, for example, that they're filling in, that shows a higher expenditure for the applicants, or we have a portfolio that's probably not self-financing in the entire portfolio. So those things could be avoided before it actually reaches underwriting, saving a lot of time.
Okay, let's talk about 2 forms specifically, probably where you probably see the most questions or the most questions are raised, and that's our supplementary information sheet for self-build and the property portfolio form and assets and liability form for self-employed income. So do you want to talk, why do we use those forms, and then what are the common things that go wrong with it?
So the supplementary form for self-bills, it's a very good form for us to have a picture as to what the applicant's plans are for their dream home. What's very important to know is that we ourselves are not builders, or neither the brokers are builders. So we are relying on the cleverness and the skills of the applicants themselves, because they have this vision of building their dream home. So they have done all the groundwork with the architects, the planning portals, etc. So they would be the best equipped people to tell us all about what they're planning to do. That form highlights how much money they need, but at the same time, what builders they're planning to use, what plans they have in place, what repayment methods they have in view, what they plan to do with their finances while the building is being done. So, for example, are they going to live with parents and incur no additional cost for rentals? Or if they are going to be renting, then what the rent will be going forward. So when it does come to underwriting, we are able to assess their affordability during build and after build correctly. Little things such as method of repayment after build can have a big impact on the decision when we're calculating affordability. So during build, it would normally be on interest only. But where after build, if they do make it repayment, stay on the form, we would have to go with that. And most of the time you would see that after build, the repayment method may cause the case to be not affordable. But then when we do go back, well, actually, it's interest only still. So that's where the importance of clarity comes in. So have a glance at the document itself. Does it match the system input? So if this form is saying interest only throughout the build and even after the build, then make sure the figures match. Because we would then have to cross-reference both the figures to make sure they match. The architects, the plans, the builders, all that is a good tool for us to say that as the applicants themselves have done a very good groundwork to make sure that this project is going to be financially suited to them, but also physically and mentally suited to them too. It is their dream home at the end of the day. So they're making sure that they're going in 100% with it.
And I suppose for me, the key of that form is, although it is longer than what it used to be, so we adapted it recently to increase some more information. It's more about having no surprises at FMA. So what we want is the broker to get more certainty on a dip. So we get all the information up front. So once they know the dip's been approved, then it's unlikely anything's going to hinder it at FMA because we've got all the key information about the build up front. So for me, although we do ask for more information we used to, it is about that clarity and giving the brokers the assurance of, look, you've told us about the build structure, you've told us about the builder, the costs, etc. So for me, that is a real valid point about getting this form filled out first time, getting it accurate in terms of...
Yeah, it removes the surprises and gives it certainty. I mean, the other thing is it's, for brokers out there, that form is a really useful fact find for you when you're actually providing advice to your client, because it covers off every single question you need to ask about a self-build. So you can use it as a real good aid memoir for when you're actually seeing your client as well. So, and, you know, we need it filled in properly, not with gaps, because all it means is we'll come back to you and say, what's in the gap, please? So that's probably one of the bugbears when there is a gap.
Yeah.
We've also created our own costing sheets, which is on the intermediary website as well for brokers to use. And again, it kind of hints at, look, these are where the costs will be. So again, I'd recommend use it. You don't have to use that specific one for the case, but again, it's more of a hint and tip guide for brokers. We do accept, look, customers have their own builders, so they will give us their own build costs, but there is the online tool as well to help support and guide brokers when you're having those conversations.
And look, when you're filling it in, if you are confused, ring up IST, ring your BDM. We will help you. And if we're not sure, we'll speak to our colleagues in underwriting and get that response for you as well. Good. Well, let's move on now to another area of what good looks like, and that's income verification, Shilpa. So what are you looking for when it comes to verifying income?
The main thing would be, does it match? If does it match to the FMA? Does it match to the bank statement credits that we're seeing in there? Are there any inconsistencies that need clarification? Employed incomes are usually easier because you have a payslip. You can just refer to the payslip versus the gross income that's the FMA stating. So just sense check it that if the payslip is a gross of 1,000, does the FMA state 12,000 as your annual income? And if the net is 900, can you see a £900 credit in the bank statement? If not, can we go back and double check? Sometimes we see childcare vouchers on the payslip that sometimes do get unnoticed. So again, a simple sense check, a common sense approach to it. If those childcare vouchers are going to be ending, then just put a note in to state that it's there, but it's going to end in 3 months. So when it comes to underwriting, we can use a pragmatic approach and perhaps look at disregarding them if they are going to be ending in 3 months. Self-employed is a bit of a tricky one, isn't it, for everyone involved? We are not accountants, but we are there to guide, and our website is very much equipped with what we're looking for. Self-employed, the main thing we're looking at is have a look and see is the business solvent? Does it show brackets in the company accounts that you can see on Companies House? Is it liquid? If you're inputting the last 3 years' income on the system, does it show that it's rising upwards or it's going down? If it is going down, put a note in to state why it's going down, because that's a question that we will ask. Going down income is quite concerning, not just for us as underwriting, but also for the applicants themselves. If their business is not viable, then are we doing the right thing by using the higher income? Perhaps not. But where a clarification is provided to us, it could be a simple reason. They may have bought a big plant, a machinery, and that's probably why the net profit is down. That's fine. Let us know, and we can then work with yourself to try and improve the situation. So that's one of those things where income verification is extremely important. The others, if we are blessed to be owning more than one property and those properties are let out, the assets and liability form, is that form fully completed, and does it show that those properties are self-financing? If they're not self-financing, then have a look at our criteria. Does it not match our percentage? If it doesn't, explain why not. It could be, again, simple things that they might be in between tenants. They might have done work in the house, which are all acceptable. But without clarity, we are none the wiser. If we do see that they're not matching, for example, and there's a gap in between self-financing and what we are seeing, we do have to factor those costs in just to make sure that we are doing right by the applicants. But those things can be avoided if we have a simple clarification as to why it's not matching.
The key usually is just understanding why something's happened. And I think that, again, comes back to the clarity and the communication point of, for us as underwriters, understanding why someone's income's dropped or why somebody has regular payments going out. So then you can make that informed decision of saying yes or no.
Yeah.
I think that's the key that I encourage you all to do, of saying, look, understand. So again, in terms of self-employed, we are open to speaking to accountants, emailing accountants directly and getting a full understanding, a true picture of a business and how it's performing. So
Yeah, look, we want to lend.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you said at the start, we want, we've got money to lend and we want to lend it, but we can only lend it if it's done responsibly.
Yes,
absolutely.
correct.
So you've talked about some red flags there around downward trends in profits or illiquid or insolvent companies. And then obviously an area that we're starting to really flex our muscling is around complex incomes. Yeah. So what's the best way for brokers to present to us complex income scenarios?
For me, it would be a simple matter of uploading a note onto the system. As you mentioned before, our system has a section where you can put notes in. Alternatively, just type up a memo to state that you want to use X amount of income and this is how you have verified that income. So that when the documents come to us or go to processing, they're able to see what almost you're seeing. Complex incomes are great. I think it gets all our brains running. It tests our knowledge, our skills as well, and it gets us equipped even more. Every time we do a complex case, we are tailoring ourselves to do better with the next customer or the next broker. So just upload a note to state that this is how it's done. You can see that for example, the April 2025 payslip, there are vested shares. But from going forward from this quarter, June 25, those vested shares will be taken in cash. And that's what the payslip is now stating. But you want to use those particular vested shares as proof of income. Note that down. If we are not told, processing will straight away think, well, I've only got June payslip that shows the shares being taken out in cash, but I've got no previous one. So how can I go to the underwriters with this document? And the same thing with us when it does come to us. We are blessed to be able to use property incomes. The same thing, if there is no note or correct proof of income for the property income, which would usually be SA 302s, we would be none the wiser to say, well, these are the incomes. Yes, it might be in a big HMO at the moment, but we have evidence that the rental has been received. It is consistent, and that's how I have worked out the income. So we work together. Sometimes we might find on certain cases that we are actually able to use more income than what the broker might have put down. And when we are having that conversation, we find out that they may want to consider a higher mortgage than what they've actually done. So we actually work together to say, well, actually, I can verify a bit more income based on your complex income scenario or even normal income, and let's try and see if we can lend a bit more. So it's, again, working together, break it down in memo form to say, this is how I've come to the income, can you consider it?
And again, there's that morning call with the underwriters
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So again, getting the conversations going early, so we can really get to the bottom of the complexity of someone's income.
Yeah.
And again, for me, the challenge is trying to make that complexity as simple as possible.
I think something else that, if I put myself in a broker's shoes that's had the conversations with that applicant, I completely understand the situation. I know the applicant's finances, I know the applicant's income. And so when I look at the documentation, it will be clear to me what I'm seeing. However, we, as those working at the lender, we haven't had those conversations with the applicant. And so it's just, again, it comes back to that communication thing. Anything that has been verbally said between you and the applicant that has helped you as the broker understand the income, that's really important context for us to have, because that could be the difference between you getting another annoying chase to say, can you please give us this information before we can give you an offer. But B, that could be what makes or breaks a case ultimately, is us having all the context we need.
At the same time, I think even for us as underwriters, when we have spoken to a broker on the phone, and we are going to be taking some income over and above what we're seeing, the notes that we should be also be putting notes on there too, on the case, so that if processing are getting a phone call of a chase, for example, there is clear notes on the system as well to state that this the discussion Shilpa's had with broker A, that's what Shilpa's waiting for. Or perhaps if a BDM is being chased, then they could equally do that. So that's a system that we use at the moment too.
Good. And then let's look at the last thing on what does good look like. So bank statements, probably one of the most common areas where we have challenge. So what are we actually looking for when we're reviewing bank statements?
Does it make sense to you? In simple words, does it make sense to you as a broker, for example, based on the advice that you've given your clients? They would have had a very in-depth conversation with the clients about their finances. So when they are getting the bank statements, does it match what the client is saying? B, does it show anything in there that perhaps you would question yourself if you saw it on your bank statement? So, for example, a debt management plan debit, or it could be a unusual childcare transaction that would show up on there, or a large purchase of something. Anything that you would say, well, actually, this is very unusual for my own bank statement. Let me just double check what this is. Sense check it. You've got payslip in front of you. Does the nets match, like we discussed before? You've got an income and expenditure planner that, as brokers, you would do a budget planner with your client. If their expenditures on that budget planner are 1,000, does your sense check of your bank statement show that it's 1,000? If it's quite considerably higher than 1,000, then naturally you would be, as a broker, you would be expecting a conversation that, well, it's not matching. Can we find out why it's a bit higher? So those are some of the things that we would see in a bank statement. The main thing is it affordable? Are they able to service the mortgage that they want out from us? Are we doing a good job as responsible lenders for honouring them that mortgage if the expenditures are higher? So just clarity, communication again.
And using the income and expenditure planner that you have to do to make sure it matches.
Absolutely, yeah. The brokers, from what we understand, they would use that particular document to give advice as well in terms of setting out a budget, for example, for how much mortgage one can afford each month. So that income and expenditure document, the form itself, is vital, I believe, for all of us in this journey with the customer to honour the mortgage that they want.
Good, excellent. Well, what good looks like, that was a really good conversation. So we've talked about application forms, and actually just fill it in. If we ask a question, it generally means we want an answer, so fill it in. If you're not sure, you know to ring. Income verification, again, we're trying to make sure that what you tell us matches with what you've got, and look at the documents that you're sending to us as evidence. And then bank statements, just look for the conduct. If there's things wrong, then, if you spot something that's wrong, we're going to spot it. So it's better you telling us what it is first and helping your client. We always say, actually, or a previous colleague of ours, Phil Orford, used to say to brokers, when you're getting your client ready for a mortgage, get a match fit. Yeah. So make sure that their bank account conduct is correct. Make sure that they can, they can demonstrate that they understand money and they understand how they're doing it. And that's what we're asking, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the key of the bank statement. So credit score can give you how creditworthy an applicant is, but your bank statement really proves to you, can this customer afford this mortgage? Does their lifestyle support they can service this mortgage payment? Yeah. And like Shilpa says, as a responsible lender at the end of the day, that is key for us to make sure. So again, like you say, it's getting the bank statement match ready. I do like that phrase, so that's good.
Right, well, let's come on to best practice and collaboration. And John, I'm coming to you for this. So Just describe what makes a great broker underwriter relationship in your mind.
I think in my mind, and this is something I'm really driving to lead in terms of the team at the moment, it's just simple about clear communication, of really having that direct access with the underwriters. So when the underwriters looked at the case, they should be phoning the broker to say, look, we've got your case, I'm Shilpa, I've looked at it, good to go to offer. Oh, look, can you just clarify these little points for me? So again, really driving that clear, quick communication. I think that for me is probably the key one. So brokers and underwriters do work together, and it just makes the process a lot easier. I think the other part for me is if we say as a lender we are going to do something, we actually do it. I don't want to be giving false promises to say we might do it and then turn out in the end we don't. So again, it's keeping that trust in the relationship as well. But for me, the thing that Saffron really benefits with the good relationship is the broker can actually speak to the underwriter, and it's the underwriter that makes the decision. It's not a system, it's the person that they are speaking to at the other end of the phone, and they can really get the story across. So again, for me, the big difference we can make in the relationships is actually the brokers and the underwriters speaking. I think that's key for me.
And have you got, I'm going to mention names obviously, but have you got like an example of a relationship where that kind of epitomises that approach?
Yeah, I think obviously as part of our Saffron Select service that we offer, the Saffron service offers brokers the ability to contact the underwriters directly, and the underwriters will contact the broker as soon as the FMA is submitted. But before they do that, they will go through the checklist first and make sure, look, we are asking for all the information up front. There is nothing worse than we do an assessment and we're missing information because we haven't physically asked for it. That's nobody's fault but ours. So what the key here is the underwriters going through the case and making sure the checklist is airtight. So when the case comes in, like we said before, there's no surprises. And two, it speeds up that process. And we see that in our Saffron Select applications where Shilpa will phone the broker and say, look, this is what we need. If you can get me this, then the feedback we're getting from that is so positive in terms of, look, the process is so much quicker. The offers are turning around so much quicker. And it just makes everybody's life a lot easier. And again, for future cases, the brokers have the ability to contact the underwriters directly. They have their direct dials, which I think is amazing. And not most other lenders probably won't offer that as a service, to speak directly to the person that's making the decision.
So Saffron Select, do you want to explain what that is?
So Saffron Select is a specialist service that we offer for high-value applications and brokers who we have worked really closely with to get such great working relationships, that offers a very key and special service in making sure we are offering that key one-to-one service. So you have a dedicated underwriter, you have a dedicated processor. And again, it's about making the journey as simple and smooth as possible, even with complex. Complex doesn't mean hard. It should be as simple as we possibly can make it. And again, speaking to the underwriter up front allows us to understand the circumstances and ask for the right information up front, so that when the fully packaged case is in and it's been through Max's team, it should hopefully just be as simple as a case of Shilpa stamping it to approve. So I think the Saffron Select is something I would encourage for all brokers, if possible, to try and aim to get to. I think it's a service that is tremendous. I mean, in an ideal world, we offer it to everybody. But from a service point, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
We have seen it work really well in practice too, because we had a case previously, didn't we, where from the point of the dip coming into us to it being in with the processing team and us having everything fully packaged, to it being with the underwriter and being offered approved subject to valuation.
Yeah.
All of that had happened before Connells had even booked the valuation. And the valuation was instructed on the day that we received the application. And so it's not as though we were slow to instruct it. It's just that kind of collaboration and communication allowed us to tie all that process up so neatly and quickly with a bow on top. And the underwriter could literally just say, we've got the valuation, that looks good, cool, go. And it was just a really smooth service for everybody.
Absolutely. And again, coming back to the actual level of borrowing as well, we have such a great working relationship with the executive team in being able to turn around quickly high value cases, which might be outside of an underwriter's mandate, but we can have those early discussions and get appetites and see, look, where do we sit with this? Do we want additional information? So I think, again, it's that decision certainty, but at speed as well, which I think is a key thing for Saffron Select.
I think for Saffron Select customers, direct email access is extremely important as well, and it works great, because sometimes if we're all busy, especially brokers, when they're speaking to their own clients, they're doing their own caseworks. So when we do have when we are emailing directly, whether it's from FMA or DIP or even at application, they know they've got that email, they've got a direct contact with a human being. They can just respond to that email, and that email is worked on pretty much within less than even 24 hours. So that speeds things up rather than picking up the phone and going through it over the phone, because chances are they might need to upload some documents, which they're able to send it to us directly via the email. And we then work with processing together to get them uploaded if there is a lot of documents.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, John, if you could give brokers one top tip to get their cases through first time, what would it be?
I think the top tip is exactly what Max and Shilpa have mentioned today, is for me about the quality of packaging. If we can get a quality package case right first time, that's where we see the results of getting offers approved when it first hits the underwriter's door. So rather than going back and forth and to and forth and it falling back into SLAs, we can get that offer done straight away. So the packaging is key. And again, I think I've said it multiple times now, is communication. If there's something unusual, just speak to us. If you want the underwriter to ring you, we will gladly ring. That's absolutely fine. It's easier to converse over the phone than it is on email, because you can interpret it a different way. Yeah. So if I could give any tip, it would be, look, make sure the case is really well packaged, and Max is there to support and his team. But again, if you want us to speak to you, that's fine. We will give you a ring so we can clearly understand what the issue is with the case or the scenario itself. So I think that would be key for me.
And so we're hoping a lot of brokers listen to this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just talking to ourselves, which is lovely, but hopefully. So what do you... I'll probably come to all of you, but John, what do you want brokers to take away from the last 45 minutes of conversation we've had?
I think for me is, one, the takeaway that we are human. We are here to lend money. Yeah. We want to lend money. We have to do it in a responsible way, absolutely, but we want to lend money. We don't like declining cases. And the way we see our lending moving forward is we do like complex. We love to make complex simple. That's what we need to be seeing more of. So I think from my side, again, I just want us to make sure that people and brokers see us as humans, that we are approachable, and equally as well for the underwriters to have the confidence and ability to speak to brokers directly. I think that's a great working relationship between the two of us. But again, for me, it's about the packaging. So we get packaging right and it works both ways. We have to be clear up front as to what we want. Equally, we need to make sure we get the right quality package cases back.
So Max, what about you? What do you want brokers to get from today?
I think for me, it's probably around how key context is. So I think in the lender to broker relationship, both parties need to understand that we owe each other context. So if we are asking, if there is a checklist that maybe looks longer than the broker may expect, we owe it to the broker to tell them why we're asking for certain things, what value will it add for us, and how will it help us make that decision? Why do we want everything on this list? But similarly, a broker owes a lender context in that if they are submitting something complex, which, as John just said, we want the complex cases. If they are submitting something complex, it's making sure that we have all the context that you have from your conversations with the client. It's making sure that the story is fully told across the documentation and the notes and the conversations. If you speak to us on the phone, it's just making sure that we have all the context we need for our underwriters to be able to make a decision, and that we're giving the brokers all the context they need to understand the value in what we're asking for.
Fantastic. And Shilpa, I'll come to you. What do you want brokers to take away from this conversation?
That we really love accepting cases. The final decision for accept, it's a celebration. It's a personal celebration as well, because you're thinking you have made someone's dreams just come true, whether it is a remortgage or it's a further advance, or it might just be someone's first home. Declining case is hard. it's physically hard, mentally hard. It's just hard because you spend a lot of time thinking, am I declining for the right reasons, or am I declining because something is not clear for me? And there's a very fine borderline there as to whether it's declining on facts or declining on maybe sort of thing. But the bottom line is we love accepting cases. If we are asking for information, then there is a reason behind it. If you're not sure about why we've asked for it, pick up the phone to us, drop us an email back, call us, speak to your BDMs. One of us will be able to tell you why, if you're not understanding why we've asked for what we've asked for. But if we're asking for things, we want to accept that case. That's how I want everyone to take this, is that if I'm asking for, say, a P60 for 2025, for example, in order to use that higher bonus that you want me to consider to be able to do the lending, then it's because I want to do the lending. So yeah, happily ever after is what I'm after with mortgage applications.
Excellent. So I think, look, we'll summarise this. I think John's kind of said it. This is all about good communication, but with context on both sides. So if you're asking for that P60, explain why you need it. I think, and then broker, explain why you want us to consider something. Yeah. It's all about good conversation. And Max has quite eloquently said that a well-packaged application gets your client in that house or in their remortgage or in their buy-to-let a lot faster than if you don't. Well, look, that 47 minutes has absolutely flown by. So this is episode 1 of this series, and you've met, the first 3 of the underwriting and processing team. So we will be doing more of these so you can meet the rest of our team, because hopefully what you've seen today is 3 people who are really passionate about what they do and really passionate about saying yes and getting people in their home, their dream home, and whatever it might be. So thank you so much to John, Shilpa and Max. Now, we've come up with the topics today because these were the hot topics that the 3 of these lovely people wanted to talk about. But as brokers, if you've got topics that you want us to explore, drop us a line. Drop us an email. We'll put the contact details onto this podcast. Just let us know, and then we can tailor our next Meet the Underwriter team around that. But until then, it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from them. Goodbye.